Tonight on the program, we're taking on a portion of a demography of our nation that is vital to the success of any political party. You'll see them in their numbers at political rallies, party meetings. Even on election day, a lot of them get to the voting points quite early, leave late, and they're always well represented at those segments, but not so in governance. Women participation in politics in Nigeria has been put at an abysmal 6%. That's according to a report by Gender Strategy Advancement International, which puts the national average of women's political participation in Nigeria at 6.7% in elective and appointive positions. Well, the ruling APC has inaugurated its women campaign team. And again, questions on women participation and representation in politics and governance. Now, that's beyond elections. Those questions have come up yet again, and these are questions nagging for answers as we approach a new political dispensation with a look at what we achieved in the past 8 years. Is there anything different this time around? How do we learn from our mistakes in the past? Let's start the conversation tonight with the national women leader of the ruling All Progressives Congress. Dr. Betta Edu joins us live from our Abuja studio on Politics Today. It's good to see you on the program, Dr. Edu, and quite a showing you had yesterday with women of your party launching that presidential campaign team for women now, strictly. And, you know, listening to your presidential candidate tell the women how much he loves them and, you know, telling them kind words. But before now, there had been issues raised about your name not being included in your party's overall presidential campaign council list. In fact, a group was protesting, saying for a high-ranking member as yourself, surely your name should have been there.
Okay, so I think it's really very simple and straight. I am Dr. Betta Edu, and I am the APC National Woman Leader, the #1 woman in APC, the ruling party, the largest party in Africa. And so it would be abnormal to have my name in any list under other persons who definitely should ordinarily be under me in the party. So really my role is actually supervisory. Anything that has to do with women, their mobilization, their engagement, whatever it is, I'm supposed to spearhead all of it. So this is just a support team to the main campaigns which will be unveiled soon. Remember, this is the women's presidential campaign team. It's not the council. And so all of this are all under the APC as a party. We are the vehicles, then we have passengers that drive. So people didn't have a clear understanding of different roles and how it works. So the party has its role, it has its constitution, and the role of the women leader in the constitution of the party is sacrosanct.
You surely must have analyzed the lists, the Presidential Campaign Council list, the main one now, as you've put it now. The first 100 names, only about 3 women.
So that has not been put out yet. It will be unveiled on the unveiling.
Okay, so the one we have, which, I mean, is the official one right now, pending when your party perhaps puts up an update. First 100 names, just about 3 women. Second 100 names, just about 5 women. And that's about, what, 5% representation on that list that was brought out earlier on. And it raised questions about, you know, the leadership of your party, which you are a member of, being really involved in the coming up of that list. One expected that at least the affirmative action will be evident in that list released by your party.
So I'll make this explanation really very clear. Right. The party has the main presidential campaign council, which would be released and properly unveiled with all of its members, where you find loads of women on that list. However, the party wants to give prominence, or has given prominence, to the role that women play in the electioneering process. And that's why they created a separate support team that will accommodate more than 1,000. In fact, we have over 1,500 women on that support team right now. So really, you need to understand that the Women Campaign Council, the Women Campaign Presidential Campaign team is where we have accommodated all the women key stakeholders, strong women in our party, and we have issued roles to them to go all out and campaign. The main PCC does not have a women's directorate asset now, except there are any last-minute changes that might happen, but it doesn't have that. And if you look through the list of the PCC, even though over 1,500 women have been accommodated on the team, you still have loads of women on the main PCC, but they are not going to be dealing directly with women mobilization, but with other areas such as grassroots mobilization, strategic planning, the legal aspect of the whole campaign, the ICT aspect, intelligence, security, logistics, name it. Those are the aspects where those who have their names come out on the main PCC would really be dealing with.
Well, Dr. Edu, time and again, women, including yourself, you've clamored for a seat at the table, and you've been clear about the nomenclature of this, this organization, saying it's a team, not even the council. You've made that clarification. So, having clamored for, seat at the table, affirmative action, 35%, would you say that this PCC list that would eventually be released as a final list would at least live up to the expectation of including 35% of women? As they say, charity begins at home.
I am very, very positive. In fact, tomorrow there is a joint meeting at the APC Secretariat between the NWC of the ruling party and the governors and representatives from the Presidential Campaign Council for us to look at all the issues concerning the list, unify the list, ensure that we have proper inclusion and representation of women, of youth, and even of the disabled. Remember, this is the largest party in Africa, and we have a lot of people eager to be on that list, to contribute their own quota in the election of the next president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So we must find the way as a party, as a group, to ensure that all this interest is protected. And I'm very, very positive. I'm very sure that after the meeting tomorrow, women will have more than 35% representation in the entire list.
But Dr. Edu, they always say you can judge what a person will do by what the person has done. And looking at even the ministerial cabinet of the president, you see just about 15% of women representation. Now, that's your party over the past 8 years. That's the best your party has been able to do. But you're confident now that you'll even do more than 35%. On what basis can we place that trust, having seen how your party carried itself, even within the presidency itself?
Okay, so I'll say this, as a very great and strong party, every single day we continue to improve on whatever we've done in time past. In fact, if you have watched the trajectory, you will notice that in the last convention of the party, a lot of amendments were done to the constitution of the party. Before this time out, we never used to have two women in the NWC, that's the National Working Committee of the party. But that convention brought in the Deputy National Woman Leader as a member of the NWC. Before this time out, we never used to have it compulsory that at the local government, at the state level, we must have 2 women out of the 5 delegates that are at the state level. And then for the national delegate, you should have 1 out of the 3 persons at the national delegate being a woman. These are things that we have made compulsory in our party just to ensure that women are included and they are part of the electioneering process. And we build that interest, that commitment, that engagement with women. Of course, going through the electioneering process, before this time, we used to know that women buy the same forms, the way men buy the forms. For the first time in the party, we're able to say, look, let women have the forms free of charge so we can have more women participate. And it showed off with the results that we have on the ground. Because before now, we used to have about 30-something candidates from our party as women. But right now, we have close to 95 female candidates running on the ticket of APC. And more importantly, we even have a female who is running for the position of a governor of a state. No other party in the 2023 election has that feat that APC has been able to achieve. This is the prominence that the party is giving to women. And of course, we're dealing with a candidate, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, one who has been tested and trusted. And he's not dealing with promises, I will. We're dealing with evidence, raw, crude evidence.
Well,
when it is
Dr.
not
Edu, so
fashionable to have
pardon me
a
to
woman
come in
as
there,
your
just at that
running
point
mate
you
in
made.
Nigeria, because definitely everyone would think, a woman, you probably will not win the election. He was able to bring a woman on.
At that point you made, so it's a bit tricky. So you're making promises this time around based on the candidate of your party for the 2023 elections. But we've heard these promises in times past, in 2015, pre-2015, 2019. Some of them included the affirmative action, even the national gender policy, saying that, we'll have something. And don't forget that just a few months ago, we saw what played out in the National Assembly with your party's majority with those gender bills. So imagine Nigerians listening to you now, making those promises, and then remembering that those promises were made pre-2015, about 8 years down the line. So are you saying that Nigerians should separate these new promises from the old one? Perhaps all things are passed away, all things have become new?
So we're not yet done. Hold your breath. We're not yet done with... We're not yet done, right? We're not yet done with the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, which is an APC government. Yesterday at the Villa, in the speech of the president when he was inaugurating this women presidential campaign team, he was very clear. He said the office of the Minister for Women Affairs should work with the Attorney General and, of course, the office of the wife of the president to ensure that before he leaves as president, we pass legislations that protects and mainstreams women. Even when the wife of the president came to give her speech, she said we'll have a pact that will ensure that as Nigerian women go out to work for our candidate to be delivered, they will be rewarded. But of course, beyond this, it's not just only about positioning at the national ministerial appointment. There's several agencies, MDAs, that are headed by women. And when you come to the grassroots, what is government doing to empower women? These are part of the questions which we should be asking. There are many social intervention programs, and they are targeted at women. If you have followed the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry, where they have the unconditional cash transfer and a lot of interventions at the grassroots, 70% of this is targeted at women. So really the government in many ways have been deliberate about empowering women even beyond positioning. And of course you can see that the party has improved its number of women on elective tickets in the party. So like I said, it's a work in progress. And we are very hopeful that before president leaves, we'll have legislations to protect women. And when the new president comes in by the grace of God, we will have more women from the Federal Executive Council to heading MDAs to the very least grassroots empowerment in our villages. More women will benefit from government.
When you say you have more legislations to protect women, which legislation are you referring to in particular? Is it the gender equality bill? Are you talking about the other 5 gender bills? Which ones are you talking about? Because what this administration has barely how many months to leave. And don't forget, those gender bills have not even been mentioned again, in spite of the promises made. So which bills in particular should Nigerians expect before this government runs out?
So I think this was the charge from yesterday. From yesterday's meeting, and we're looking at the 35% affirmative action. We're equally looking at the other gender bills that were taken to the National Assembly but did not scale through the first time. The president has instructed that all of this should be looked into. Remember, before now, we already had the buy-in of even the Speaker of the House of Reps, who expressly addressed the women and said that this would be reviewed again and brought brought back to the floor of the House. We still have some time, and we believe that with the President personally interested in this, as well as other key Nigerians, and indeed the international community, will fast-track the action, of course, to achieve all of these bills that will mainstream women and give us our rightful place in governance, in politics.
I do hope I'm not being unfair here if I maybe ask you to talk about the past 7 years, saying that you just joined the party in 2021. But, I mean, I'll still take it on since you're the national women leader of the party. Over the past 7 years or thereabouts, would you say that this administration of your party has done well by women? And I mentioned those promises made, which, I mean, your party failed at. But aside that, would you say, look to women listening to you right now in Nigeria and say, our party has done right by you?
Yes, I can boldly say that our party, APC, has done well by the Nigerian woman. I think we need to take the narrative a little away from just about offering you a seat at the Federal Executive Council and things around heading of the MDAs. We've got good representation there, and like I said, we can make it better. But there are issues that affect women on a day-to-day basis. There are issues that affect women. Financial empowerment is one of it. One of the reasons why we have high maternal mortality rates, which is beginning to drop, is the fact that women are unable to make decisions when they should make those decisions because they are not financially empowered. Women have other problems. They wake up in the morning, a mother is unable to feed the child, to go to school and participate in school. And she's worried, how can I get that done? The government has found several ways to do right by women. If as a mother you send your child to school and you're positive, you're sure that your child in school would be fed, at least you're sure that that meal will be given to the child, it gives you hope, it gives you peace as a mother. I spoke about the conditional cash transfers. At least I was part of the team that went to Cross River State, and within the last 18 months they had reached out to over 36,000 women in Cross River State, and these women were coming out live to give testimonies. They were collecting the money. And of course, even during the COVID era, we had a lot of interventions, survival funds, and cares. And of course, you don't want to even leave mentioning the farmers, female farmers that were prioritized when they said support farmers, rice farmers. In my state, I have good example, number of women who I knew before this time did not have funds to farm, but today they can boldly show you their farms and what they've made out of it. All of these are ways in which the Nigerian government was keeping its social contract with the Nigerian people, right? And of course, remember that we had a pandemic that we had to deal with as a government. So when you look at it vis-a-vis all the other issues that shut down our nation for several months and other global issues that affected Nigeria and several other countries. But I can boldly look Nigerian women into the eyes to say, yes, indeed, there were interventions, social and otherwise, that prioritized Nigerian women. But remember, help, hope, more and more improvement is coming.
Well, President Buhari, as you referenced yesterday, admitted to the fact that there's a lot that needs to be done. As you said, he instructed the AGF, Minister of Women Affairs, even the wife of the president, to come up with possible constitutional and legal changes that will essentially help create a level playing field for women in politics and government. And it takes me back to the point of getting a seat at the table. At this point, it's just about 15% of the president's ministerial cabinet. And I imagine that you have spoken to members of your party, even lawmakers who are meant to at least vote for that or those bills, and even lawmakers within your party didn't vote for it. So I wonder, what are those barriers? Perhaps this can form part of the policy changes that you are proffering.
Okay, so I'll give you the barriers from both sides, right? As women, we have things which have been barriers over time. So ideologies where women just believe that I should not be involved in politics. Politics is for a man. Politics is not my thing. Their own ideologies. Of course, we have the religious constraints where it's said that, oh, women should not be heard, women should be submissive, and the rest of it. And then people build rhetorics around it to use to push women to the back burner. Of course, we have issues around funding, which is a major problem, a major problem. Except you empower that woman, she's unable to make decisions, she's unable to take steps to really get into the political space and speak up for herself. Remember, it's not easy to run elections anywhere in the world. Of course, Nigeria is not an exception. We have issues around stereotyping. We have issues around corruption, which has not made it easy for women to thrive in the political space, where you have one woman making an error or failing in a place, and then you suddenly just think, yes, because one woman failed, then it shuts the door for 60,000 or 60 million other women out there. You see it a lot when people are driving. If someone drives in a funny way, the next thing you hear is, I'm sure it's why is he driving like a woman? Or I'm sure it's the woman who is driving that car. All of those stereotyping are things which have pulled women back from participating. They believe it's a dirty game. We don't want to get involved. Women who are involved are not cultured, or they're not morally correct. They're too exposed, and that's not what our culture preaches. Those are things that have held women back. But in addition to this, there is that mental belief amongst the male folks too, that it's a competition instead of a complementary process of building our nation. And so these are things which we continue to give orientation to our men and women. If you listened recently in the news and all across, going through the Office of the Women Affairs, even the United Nations, you hear things like he for she, trying to bring men into their awareness. That is not a competition for space. It's just saying that we have to work together harmoniously to build our country, to build our nation. And truly, if you want this nation to develop at the speed of light, everyone needs to be very conscious of getting women into leadership positions and giving us a seat on the table. So these are things that have held us back from both angles, and we're beginning to see some men stand up to say, yes, let women actually have this seat at the table, let them be mainstreamed. We are really very positive. Remember, it's a critical period for even the people at the legislation. They want the votes from the women right now. So if that bill goes back to the House, I'm really very sure at this point that they would do all they can to ensure that it's quickly passed and women are mainstream. I think this is a good window of opportunity for the Nigerian woman.
Right. Just a few months to point out, a few months that your party has in power, President Muhammadu Buhari. So it will be important to see how much work can be done so people can indeed hold you by your promise. But a few more issues to raise before we wrap up the conversation. I mean, you also represent a demography of young people, as it were, not just women, young people. And I recall that you were vocal during the NSARS movement. You were vocal with other young people calling for a change, even with your governor at that time, who was in the PDP. And a lot of them now are tilting towards the obedient movement, saying that they want something different from APC and the PDP. Some of them saying enough is enough. We've had 8 years of one, we've had another 8 years of another, and they're saying they want a change, as it were. I wonder how you relate with those young people, especially some of them who see you as betraying the whole movement. How do you reconcile all of that?
So I think I need to get this very, very clear, right? My state was terribly affected by the NSARS. And even on Channels Television, we stood all out, myself, my governor, to speak against that movement which was hijacked by hoodlums and would destroy development for 30 years, things that we would not even as a state be able to recover in the next 20 to 30 years. It was not a child's play. It took development of my state some steps back, but for the fact that we had a very strong hand as a governor who was able to galvanize support and really galvanize, in fact, everyone's mind in the state to hold on and just walk towards rebuilding. It was a very, very terrible time for us as a state and for Nigeria as a country. And at no time did we ever agree, or at no time did we ever say that Nigerian young people should not dialogue, but they should go into the streets to destroy what they have used their taxpayers' money and their hard-earned money to build. Now coming to the point of myself being a young person, I think my party made a very strong statement by giving the leadership of the women's wing to a young person.
Right.
For the first time probably in history of the electionary process of my party, I'm the first woman leader elected into the party at 35 years of age, right? And this was done to say, we believe in young people. We want to harness the innovation. We want to harness the energy. We want to harness all the productivity you bring to the table for nation building, for building a political party.
We need to wind down because of our time.
And that's what my party did. And for the young people who I interact with on a day-to-day basis, I encourage them, right? We need to support the party and support our presidential candidates.
Well, in less than 30 seconds. So you may have seen The Economist's, the report that was done describing Peter Obi as possibly the winner of the next elections, and also said that he's been revolutionary. And I wonder if you agree. Don't forget that he was a former running mate in your former party, so this is someone you know as well. Do you agree with that? Dr. Edu, I'm not sure if you got that question.
I beg your pardon. Question, we lost the sound from here, so we might need to take that again.
Okay, we're closing, but let's see if I can squeeze in that in less than 30 seconds. The Economist described Peter Obi as revolutionary. In fact, said he might be the next president of Nigeria. You know him well within your former party, and I wonder if you agree with that projection. Okay, we might have to take this another time. That's our time on the program, at least for this conversation. We'd like to thank you so much, Dr. Betta Edu, who is the National Women Leader of the ruling All Progressives Congress. Thank you so much for your time. I guess we'll continue this another time.
Thank you so much for having me.